Okay, I have some amazing questions that I cannot wait to chat through with our wonderful guest, who is a friend, who is a co-author, actually, along with Lori, co-authored Heels to Deals last year, which Lori reminds me doesn't count, and I still need to author my very own book, which I'm working on. But Shawanda Roberts is going to be our guest that I chat through the questions with this session. And as always, I'll be having the conversation with Shawanda, but every single one of you is invited and encouraged to be active in the chat, to come off mute, to share your insights, to share your stories. This is a discussion. But Shawanda, would you mind starting with an intro?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much for having me. I was telling Leslie before she joined or before everyone else joined, that I never really finished a book. Like, that was always something that was wrong with me. I always thought I was broken. I was like, I get a book, I read like halfway through, and then I put it down for a couple of days, and then I never finish it. So this was actually, the goal of mine to say, no, you're going to finish this book because Leslie has you in this business book club, and you told her that you were going to do this. And so I finished it, and I finished it 2 months ahead of time. So I was really excited for myself. Um, I am really, really excited to be here and talk about this. And just a little bit of background with me: I'm a vice president of sales at Frost & Sullivan, which is a growth consulting firm. Been there for about 16 years. Literally, my whole model in life, personal and career, is just to inspire, inform, and impact anyone that I come in contact with, and just be happy, and also continue to bring kindness to the world. So that's a little bit about me. I've got 3 kids and 2 doodles in this house. So I have one big toy box. Happily married, going on 20 years, and I just like to have fun. So that's a little bit about me.
I love that. What did you say? Impact? What did you say?
Inspire, inform, and impact.
Inspire, inform, and impact. I love that. For anybody that was here last month for the Stephen Covey book, and we were talking about the philosophy out of our ambition, Shawanda would already had hers ready. That is a powerful, powerful statement there. And you finished the book 2 months early. I love that. I have to admit, this book at the beginning was a bit of a slow burn for me. I was kind of like, I was like, good. Second half, though, it was all the feels. It was so emotional. And I think I've expressed this, and others in book club have expressed this, that the book seemed to be hitting us at like the exact right time for the questions we're answering and the things we're going through in our life. And at the beginning of this book, I was like, why am I reading this? Like, why has this been put in front of me right now? And by the end of the book, kind of got a little bit teary-eyed. So very, very, I think, important reminder that, like the Shonda Rhimes that we know is this badass, huge, maker of an empire. But so often what we see on the outside really tells us nothing about the internal battles that folks might be fighting. And I think I'd like to start there, because something that really struck me throughout the book was how gritty Shonda is. I mean, like, maybe just downright stubborn, but like very, very gritty. And in chapter 5, which was Yes to Speaking the Whole Truth, she says, I think a lot of people dream, and while they're busy dreaming, the really happy people, the really successful people, the really interesting people are busy doing. And I mean, I think everybody can already see it just from the passion and joy with which you introduced yourself, that describes you. So I'd love just to hear your take. So Shonda says it takes hard work to make things happen. It's hard work that creates change. Shonda, how have you made your dreams into a reality?
Ooh, so I will tell you, you know what, let me just start off this way before I answer that question. So as I was reading this book, a lot of after I finished the book, I just kind of sat it down and I said, what comes to mind? And I'm a really big, I love quotes. I love, sayings because it just fires me up. So I literally jotted down what quotes and what sayings come to mind when I think about this book. And so I wrote them down and I'm going to tell you what they are. So it was, you'll never grow in your comfort zone.
Oof.
Don't judge a book by its cover. Face everything and rise. God didn't make me to blend in. And then I also remembered the first only difference, the FOD that she talked about throughout the book. Motivation gets you started. Commitment keeps you going. Attention determines your direction. Direction determines your destination. So when we talk about dreams and making them reality, I will be very transparent and honest and say, when I think of a dream, I will procrastinate and think about that dream for the longest time without even thinking about how do I make it reality. It's just like, yeah, one day I want to do that. And then the next year it's one day I want to do that. And I would say it's been recently that I have said, okay, I put in my mind, I say I want to do something, which is where the attention comes in. Okay, I know I'm attentive to this is my dream. Then I have to, understand what's the direction I'm going to take. So what are the steps that I'm going to do to make this a reality? And if I follow the direction, then it's going to get me to my destination, right? So when I think about my dreams, I'm like, okay, here's the goal. Now I have to actually figure out what small or big steps I'm going to take and finish, and keep going with those steps, commit to that direction and know that, hey, I may have to take different turns. It may not be the right turn, but I'm going to commit to this direction in order to get to my destination. And as we know, if you look at commitment is really just a behavioral pattern, right? We always sometimes go commit and then we stop. Like for me, it's working out. I'm going to work out. New Year's resolution, as everyone says. And by January 30th, we're like, yeah, okay, we'll take a break. And then in December, I'm like, oh, I got to go with New Year's resolution again. But that is something where you just basically say, hey, I got to stop it. If I'm going to commit to it, then I've got to have the behavioral pattern to keep going until I get to that destination or I set a new goal.
I like that. A lot of emphasis on action, and some of the books that we've read in the past in Business Book Club, like The Motivation Myth and Streaking and Atomic Habits. One of the things that they call out as a misconception is that having a dream is the same as having a goal. The distinction being that a goal is something that, like, you just said, you have to have those mini milestones and those things that you're going to hold yourself accountable to every day, every week, and every month as you're tracking towards the bigger goal. Whereas a dream is just like, oh, that'd be cool. Maybe someday I'll do that, which, like, fine, have your dreams. But, I think we could all behoove from admitting to ourselves that, like, if we're not doing anything to make a dream come true, it really just is that a dream, not actually a goal. Oh, I love that. Very powerful. Follow up to that. So later in that same chapter, Shonda talks about doing it all and how it's literally impossible. It was actually, I think, like, that's where the book started getting kind of emotional. And she said something along the lines of, like, nobody is doing it all. And if you think somebody is doing it all, like, they're lying to you, like they're hiding some piece. I think it was like Whitney Houston's hair was the example. She was like, if you're doing great at work, something's probably slipping personally, and vice versa. I think we've all maybe felt a little bit more of that the past few years as work and life have meshed in weird ways. But you are somebody who is a sales leader, is an individual contributor, is a wife, is a mother of multiple children, is a dog mom, right? Like, you wear a lot of hats. And I'm just like, how do you find the balance?
Yeah, that's a tough one, because I will tell you, I still don't think there's a balance. I think you can, I guess the best way to say it is you can try to align it as even as possible, but it's still not, you still can't do it. it's really, really hard. I will tell you that it takes a village, as they say, and with me, I will say that I'm pretty blessed because I've got a working husband, I've got two sets of grandparents that live in the same town
Mm,
with me. And so a lot of I wouldn't say the burden, but a lot of the call out or the village is my family, right? And being able to tap into them to make sure that if my kids have an event, but let's say I'm out of town for work, that they're going to show up and show out for my girls and my boy, to make sure that they know, hey, mommy loves you, mommy's here, she knows, they know where I'm at, but you're still going to have your village to show up. It's the same thing in the career with me being kind of a player coach role. I did it for so long that I never really thought about balance. I just thought, hey, I'm hitting goals over here, I'm hitting goals over here, we're fine. But it wasn't until COVID hit when I started feeling more concerned about my sales reps hitting their target than I did me
mm,
individually hitting my target. I basically said, hey, I will sacrifice not hitting my target because I want to make sure every single one of my team members does hit their target. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened that year. The first thing I thought was, oh my God, I'm going to be put on a PIP because I didn't hit my individual target. And lo and behold, they came back and said, no, we're going to put you as successful performance because there's more to just your target and the value that you bring to this company. And I was like, whoa, that means a lot. They actually are looking and they're seeing that, yes, we understand we've got her doing all these different things, but she's doing the best that she can with everything she's got. And so I think you're right. When Shonda was right, no one is doing it all and being successful at every single thing that they're doing. There's something that's slacking, whether it's
mm.
their self-care, which I think that's the biggest thing that we'll probably slack on because we want to make sure that everything else people see from the outside looks good and feels good, but yet we're stressed on the inside. We've got a ton of anxiety. We are just broken on the inside, right? And I think, it's just taking all of that. And again, the best thing you can do is just try to evenly balance it out, but it's still never really going to be 100% balanced across the board.
Yeah, and I want to dig into that burnout piece a bit more because that was something that Shonda obviously really struggled with. But I loved your take on the player coach trying to find the balance there. And I mean, this is for a whole nother meeting, but it really speaks to everything that's wrong with a player coach role because it is really, I've been in a player coach role many times in different roles. And I think the best leaders are people that are selfless. And if you have a quota and then you also are a leader, it can be really hard to prioritize your quota over your team. And if you do that, then you're not a, so I think that's a really interesting take in trying to find the balance there. I appreciate you sharing that story. And I know a lot of folks on the line with us today are parents or are caretakers. Anybody else have anything that they want to share around like maybe feeling some of that pain of trying to be perfect at work and in the household and feeling like you just are never enough in either place because it's impossible to truly do it perfectly in every facet of your life? And no pressure if you don't, but just, if anybody does have anything they want to share all the time. Yeah. And you're always welcome to drop thoughts and comments in the chat instead of coming off of mute if that's what you prefer. Okay, I want to stay on that burnout piece for a second, because in chapter 8, which was Yes to My Body, Shonda covers two topics, one being burnout and the other one being addiction. She includes a quote from Olivia Pope, one of the best characters ever, or Olivia Pope's dad, I guess I should say, but Olivia Pope's like one of the best characters ever written. But her dad gives the advice that you have to be twice as good to get half as much. And then he adds that you have to work 4 times as hard. Or Shonda says, and then I decided I didn't want half as much, I wanted all of it. So I decided I was going to work 4 times as hard. And the book starts getting really meaty, I think, at this point, because you start seeing the layers of Shonda creating her own way as a Black woman in an industry that is frankly both sexist and racist, trying to balance that need to work 4 times as hard, which meant her making sacrifices at home and those pressures adding up, and for her leading to a food addiction, which is heavy, heavy stuff. So I'd love to hear from you, or again, if anybody else is comfortable coming off mute and sharing, like when you do lose track of who you are, which I think is a given, right? Like all of us have at some point, to some extent, kind of lost track of who we are in our direction. Or maybe folks have struggled with depression or anxiety or addiction. But when you lose track of who you are, Shonda, how do you build your way back to saying yes to yourself?
Yeah. And again, that one is a hard one. The other thing too becomes sometimes I don't even realize that I'm burnout. I don't even realize that I'm actually stressed out. Just like Shonda didn't even realize all of this until the one day her sister said, "You never say yes to anything." And it just took that sentence from her sister to figure out, well, damn, my sister's right. I don't. But prior to that, she wasn't thinking about saying yes. It was just no, 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 no. This is what it is. No, not doing it. So first it's realizing it. And sometimes it takes people from the outside to give you that feedback before your mind opens up and says, take that feedback and figure out, is that true or not about me? And I think a lot of times that happens with me as well. Even being, I would say the first and only African-American woman in leadership at my company, I was there probably 10 plus years before I even realized it. And that's because someone brought that out and told me. It just kind of went over my head, didn't really ever think about it until someone said that. And so I think when I realize it, and then I start to feel that, yes, you know what? I am stressed. I am burnt out. I feel like I'm doing more work than my male counterpart is doing, or whatever it is. One of the things that I will do is, first of all, I come home and I'll talk to my husband. And he's really, as much as I motivate other people to grow and to get where they want to be, I also feel and know that I need that motivation as well. And he's one that really just, puts a lot of wisdom into my head and tells me, you're great, you're this, you're that. I also will say, okay, let me take 24 hours just to be lazy and to just be in my feelings. Okay. Let me just do me. Let me, as Drake's song is in my feelings. Let me just be in my feelings for 24 hours. Okay. So I'm not going to question anything. I'm just going to be in my feelings. And then after that 24 hours, I basically say, okay, snap the hell out of it, Shay. You got to figure out how you're going to get to where you want to be, right? Or you got to snap out of this and you've got to figure out what the next step is. And then I'll basically kind of just mentally try to change my mindset and figure out, how do I not necessarily call this a problem, but call it a challenge? And what's the solution that I'm going to overcome the challenge with? And it's hard. It is very, very hard. Sometimes I even have to take 48 hours instead of 24 hours. I'm not going to lie to you. But I think it's the change in the mindset and building the confidence to say, I can overcome the challenge. And if that means I need to tap into my village on LinkedIn, or I need to tap into, one of my people within my network that I know can help me through this challenge, that's what I'm going to do. And so that's how I have found my way to kind of come out of, a slump that I may be having. And it seems it's working.
Yeah, no, I like that reframe a lot, that it's not a problem, it's a challenge. And with every challenge, there's an opportunity. So it allows you to pivot your mindset to being solution oriented instead of feeling trapped or hampered by the problem. And I think that's a really, really powerful reframe. Who else has felt that, where you were just like in it doing the work, and then it wasn't until, for whatever reason, maybe you got a new job or you got a new boss, or somebody just said like, wow, you are that first only different, that you were like, oh shit, I'm really burned out. Whoops. Has anybody else ever gotten there in life because yeah, hands going up. I sure as heck have. Okay, I would like to, if you will all humor me, pause and take a moment to answer one of the journaling prompts in this gorgeous, gorgeous journal. One of the very initial journaling prompts that Shonda gives us to set the tone for the rest of what is a very large journal is to ask, what is the vision for myself? Who do I want to be this year? So think about it obviously in the context of the book, in the context of A Year to Yes. And mind you, the prompt does not say what I want to do. So it's not a list of things you want to do. It asks, who do you want to be? So I just invite everybody to take 60 seconds and just jot down a few thoughts, bullet points, any that you feel comfortable dropping in the chat. Please do that and share them with us. And you're also welcome to come off mute if you'd prefer to share them that way. But what is my vision for myself? Who do I want to be this year? Love that, Jeremy. Great husband, father, and grandfather, pours into others selflessly, even to my own disadvantage. That's really funny because my literal one after that, my comment after that was like the opposite. I said a person who stands up for myself, even if it makes somebody else uncomfortable. But it's really like doing what's right for us, right? For each of us individually. I also shared a person who calls people in instead of calling them out. Some good ones. Courtney, someone that makes everyone feel seen, heard, and understood. I love that. Shonda, I want to be more resourceful and well-rounded woman in my life to include mother, wife, daughter, and leader, wearing all of those hats, seeking that balance. Lori, less output, but higher quality. Less is more power, less stuff. Ooh, that's a powerful one. And we touched on that a little bit in the Stephen Covey session 2, Lori, because when we did that urgency addiction quiz, and for folks that weren't able to join last week, we took, as a group, we took this urgency addiction quiz, and it was not addicted, like on the verge of being addicted, and addicted. And I think only one person scored addicted to urgency. So that's, I think, pretty good, pretty impressive. But everybody else but Lori was in the range of like on the verge of being addicted to urgency, myself included. And Lori, I don't know if you want to pop off mute and share kind of a summary of like letting go of the stuff that doesn't serve us.
As it relates to this,
yeah.
I'm known for having lots of things going on, and I'm at the point where I'm gonna have less things, but they're gonna be higher quality. So that's why I say less deliverables. It sounds kind of business-like, but it's really for my whole life. I'm whittling down the things that don't serve me as well, and focusing on how to refine what I'm doing so it's greater value, less that, but it's better. So
no, I like that. I mean, I think in like the context of Year and Yes, like you're saying yes to the things that serve you best, like yes to the things that add the most meaning to your life, yes to making time for the things that are going to give you as much as you're putting into them. I think that's powerful. I love that. Great one here from Ellie too. Transition into my fabulous 50s with grace and give myself the gift of time, which what a gift that is. I will continue my ABC authentic, brave, creative mantra, and I'll be the people's champion and ringleader for my work. I love it. You can tell that I'm addicted to LinkedIn because the first thing I thought is, that's a great LinkedIn headline. Save me, team. That's incredible. Love that. And then, oh, where did I just go? Somehow I got out of the chat. And then Randy's here. Inspiration, be my best self and inspire others to be their best and authentic selves. Ooh, powerful, powerful. Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to go through that. And certainly, you know that I love a journaling practice. So if you have time later, I do encourage you to take what we just started here and, spend maybe 5 or 10 minutes going deeper on it. Say yes to going a bit deeper. Say yes to giving yourself another 10 minutes of really answering that question about what is my vision. Luigi here, continue to stay connected to my values, show more gratitude for what the universe puts in front of me. I know that is one of the very first topics that we ever bonded on and that we ever talked about. Both what can be perceived as negative, be grateful for it, accept that I am not perfect. None of us are, but I am on the journey to being the best I can be. Yeah, that's incredible. Yeah, I feel like I'm very much on that journey as well. Just doing my level best out here, trying to be the best version of myself. Powerful stuff, folks. Thank you for going through that exercise with me. Okay, I'm going to bounce to chapter 10. I think it was one of my favorite chapters, if not my favorite chapter. That was the chapter that was less thank you. And Shonda digs into how people, but especially women, are socialized to not accept compliments. And I think, I shared at the beginning of our discussion today that all of the books this year have found me at the right time. And this year, one of the things I really wanted to work on was not being a person that apologizes when I don't have anything to apologize for, not being a person who makes myself small to make other people more comfortable. And so this chapter, it really hit home for me because it's something that I've been working on all year and that I'm still not good at. It's like I still catch myself constantly trying to minimize my accomplishments, trying to make myself small. And Shonda shares her fears around accepting a compliment, that she is afraid people will think she's full of herself, that people won't like her because she's so confident. She's afraid that people will think she likes herself, and it's so absurd when said out loud. But I don't think I'm probably the only one. Obviously not Shonda sharing it, but I don't think I'm the only one in this group that's maybe felt some of that pressure where it's a bad thing to be sure of your worth. And I think a lot of people, but especially women, are taught to be embarrassed or even ashamed of being confident in what we bring to the table. And yeah, I raise a hands maybe. Does anybody else struggle with taking a dang compliment? Yeah, probably pretty much everybody, right? Now, Ellie's like, I'm into my fabulous 50s. I take a compliment.
I'll take all of it. Take all of it. It actually, I went to a great course a few years ago, a leadership coaching course. And for about half of one of the days, it was all about feedback, giving feedback, but also accepting feedback. And we talked about negative and positive feedback. And part of it was role playing back and forth. And we had to go through this line of the room where you're facing a whole bunch of people and go through, and you had 30 seconds and you had to give the person across from you a compliment. And the only thing the other person could say was thank you.
Oh my God. And
you
I bet
can
it
say
makes
anything. I
people
love your
uncomfortable.
shoes. Your necklace is
Yeah.
amazing. Your hair is so fabulous today. I've noticed you've really stepped up and you've been contributing more, whatever it is. And you had to just accept it. It's insulting to the person giving the compliment if you don't take their compliment. Somebody says, I really love your sweater. And you're like, oh, this old thing. you're actually insulting their compliment.
Yeah, I think that
You
was a
gotta take
big
it.
wake up call for me that I had done something really nice for somebody else. Like I had really like gone above and beyond, and they were like, oh, I was like taking care of a kid, their kid. And they were like, oh, wow, like, thank you so much. That really helped me. And I was like, oh, it's no big deal. And what I was saying to them is that it's not hard to take care of a kid. Like, it's no big deal. And I was like, oh, Leslie, you're not communicating what, like, by trying to be humble, you actually hurt somebody's feelings. Like, let's evaluate this. And it was like a light bulb moment that made it something I wanted to work on this year. Courtney, are you still there? What were you and Maria talking about this AM? Just the difficulty of taking compliments and how we need to be better at it. I think she had to step away from a second. Which, Shonda, I'd love to hear how are you leaning into compliments? How are you saying yes, thank you?
You know, I think I go from, I used to be the kind that would say thank you, but you know, the little kids that say thank you and they're like, thank you, oh
Yeah.
my God, and they're moving back and forth and they're, oh my God, they just said a compliment to me. I don't know what to say besides thank you. And I put my head down or I don't look at them, right? Eye contact. So what I have worked on over the last few years is basically to say thank you, just like Ellie did, and basically, you know, look them in the eye and smile, right? Instead of trying to get all giddy and, you know, act like a little kid, because it's easy to do that when you're like, oh my God, they're giving me a compliment. This is pretty cool. The other thing that I've kind of thought about as well is, again, here we go with quotes, going to the quote from Muhammad Ali, and that says, it's not bragging if you can back it up. And I think all of us need to remember that and say, look, if I can back up what I'm talking about, then I'm not bragging. I'm giving you facts. I'm telling you exactly what it is that I've done or that I can do or whatever it is. It's facts. The other thing is, you know, from a woman's perspective, and again, changing the status quo and things like that, especially for Shonda, there's a shirt that I love that I see all the time, and it says, know your worth and add tax. And I'm like, I need to get that shirt. I need to wear that every day. So I think it's the mindset, and it's saying, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to take that compliment and I'm going to actually say thank you. And I'm going to be, you know, I'm going to smile and I'm going to appreciate it. And I'm not going to feel bad that I'm getting all of these compliments, but I'm also going to make sure that people understand my skill sets, you know, what I can do, because I can do just about as much as anyone else can do. Right. And I'm not going to have all the answers. No one's going to have all the answers because no one's perfect. But I tell you what, if I don't know the answer, I'm going to find the answer. I'm going to go find someone that can help me with the answer. And I think it's also, you know, again, someone had to tell me this, but you know, when you probably have had to make a presentation to someone where you're thanking them for doing something, right? And a lot of times we'd go in and say, here's a small token of our appreciation. And someone said, no, anything you give as appreciation is not small. Stop saying small. And I never hit me because it's just always what I've heard. And I just say, oh, here's a small token of our appreciation. And someone had to stop me and say, no, it's a token of our appreciation. It doesn't matter what it is. It's not small, whatever it is. It's a token of your appreciation. It never hit me until someone actually said that. And I said, you know what? You're right. You're absolutely right. So if y'all say that, don't say small, just say it's a token of our appreciation.
That's good. That's a really good takeaway. I feel like that's going to be my good takeaway. Yeah, no, I think that's incredible. And I really appreciated the point you made too about it's if you can back it up, like it's not a brag, it's just a statement of facts. And I think like the very last page of that book, Shonda's listing a bunch of her accomplishments. And then she's like, it was like difficult for me to like list these accomplishments out because it felt braggadocious, but I literally was just stating facts of things that I have accomplished. And that's so true that like, I'm like, oh, I have done these things. And then I'm like, oh, but you know, it's only because of my team. And it's just, you know, no, right place, right time. I'm so lucky. And I'm like, no, like I've done the damn thing and I should lean into it. Jeremy, it sounds like this was a chapter that you really loved as well. What would you add?
I mean, I was literally cheering, standing up at my desk at home, cheering in my office. And my wife had to know what I was reading, and now I've convinced her to read Year to Yes. And she didn't want to read it at first because she's a people pleaser. She's like, I don't need a Year of Yes, I got that, right? But after I explained what Year of Yes means, as I was finally starting to understand it, she's decided to read it. And you know, I think Shwanda said it great when she was talking about, you know, stop saying small and stop downplaying those pieces, right? And you said this too, Leslie, like we regularly are trying to minimize ourselves, but in doing so, we're actually minimizing the other person, right? We're stealing their ego. We're making it about us instead of about them.
Yeah.
And that's not what that was about. And, you know, she is literally in this room filled with these badass women, and not a single one of them could take the compliment. And I'm almost at the point of tears. I'm like, y'all have killed yourself, and you can't just be like, thank you, I earned this. And then when she didn't do it, I was like, F this book. Right? I was done. And then she figured it out and turned it around. And I was just like, I mean, I want to see this book be made into a movie, because that's a moment that a lot of people need to see. And, you know, as a father, soon to be grandparent, like that's the message that I want my kids to have too, right? Like, you earn this, you're a badass. Take that. Nobody can take it from you. And don't downplay it ever. You earned it. So
It was a goosebump moment for sure. I love that. I love that. To stop feeling less than, we have to stop talking like less than. Oh, that's a good quote. Shawnee, you gonna steal that quote? Start saying it?
Yeah,
feel
I
like
don't know.
that's
I may
right up
have,
your
I
alley.
may, hey, y'all may see these on LinkedIn, okay? So I
Yeah.
will tag you. Trust me, I will tag you as the originator.
I love Jeremy's over here being like my personal marketing department. Like he's like, the book club's amazing. Read this book. This is I appreciate you. So yes, get him out there, do that tagging, talk about the conversations we're having here. Big fan. I'll vote +1 on that. Courtney, do you want to attempt to come off mute again? I'll give you like a 3 count. Oh, you did it. Okay. I was gonna really give you a 3 count on it.
I don't know. For some reason, because I'm cooking dinner and I don't want people to like watch me eat food while I'm slaying over the stove. And for some reason, I have this like issue every time. I'm like, wait, I need to come off mute. Wait, I can't find the button. And I'm like, oh, I'll find it later. Okay, so Maria and I were just talking about just going back to the women not being able to accept compliments. We were talking about how sometimes it's really hard to speak up in meetings. And, you know, like she was talking about how someone in her team like really encouraged that and was like, hey, you have a voice, like on Slack, like, hey, you have a voice, speak up. We need to hear this. And I think it's so common for women to feel that way. I mean, I've definitely been in a room of all men and have gotten maybe 3 words in in an entire like hour meeting. And at the end of it had been like, okay, well, what else can I say? Resolved all these questions. And how to, it's just hard to receive a compliment because a lot of times in business, women are given very backhanded compliments and underhanded compliments of their success. And it's always tied to them being like, you know, Samantha McKenna's talked about this, about, you know, people making underhanded comments to her about, you know, her success rate being her overly bubbly personality, or you're just a people pleaser, or like, well, I mean, you just got lucky. I mean, I've heard all of that before.
Yeah. I think maybe the backhanded compliments are something that is especially prevalent and maybe in the commercial realm as well, because there is so much competition. I think a lot of folks have a scarcity mindset, which unfortunately causes them to put other people down, which probably creates some sort of cycle with ego, yeah, some sort of cycle. Because I think we probably all heard some variation of like you only won that deal, or you only got that promotion because you got lucky, or because so and so liked you. And you're like, what about like my quota overachievement, or what about what I did for my team, or what, right? And it's, I think, easier for people to point a different direction. Yeah, that's a good added perspective. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to pop to chapter 14 because I want to make time for one more little group exercise before we go, because I love a little interactive, collaborative exercise.
Hey, Lisa, can I just say something before you?
It
I'm
would
sorry.
be my pleasure to have you say something.
I've encountered this problem, I think, so many times in my career, right? And I think it's because in all the roles that I've been in, I've been the most uneducated person, but I've always been able to achieve some pretty great results. And for many years there, I took that type of those comments or that feedback as a real negative. But it wasn't until recently I had a realization that it's not about me, it's about them, right? So those comments, again, had nothing to do with me. It's about the way they're feeling about themselves, and it's about the way that they need to make themselves feel validated. And so for a long time, I would get angry, and it would draw the worst out of me and bring some really, poor responses. But this is the great opportunity, right? As part of our growth, is that when I had that realization, I'm like, what? That's more about you. And I really appreciate your feedback, but your opinion's none of my business, right? And that helped me sort of change my perspective and mindset on things. But it also made me aware that, maybe they've got some things about them, some insecurities, or something's going on in their life that I don't know about. Yeah. Or they could have had some things that happened to them that I don't know about. So, it's also about being empathetic to what their situation could be. So that really helped me, and only happened literally in the last probably 12 months. So I've had this big realization and a big aha moment.
Ooh, that's powerful. And what's interesting about that, Luigi, is that I feel like I've made that connection for personal things, like particularly around body shaming. That I'm like, the only reason that you are commenting on what I'm wearing or what my weight is because you're insecure with those aspects of yourself. But even having made that connection, I did not make the leap to thinking about it in a professional context.
Yeah, and again, that's that's for me, but it's also made me aware that sometimes this is why you've got to be very careful about the network and the people you build around you, because you want people to be able to lift you up and support you and be your biggest, like, you're my advocate, I'm your advocate. That's the type of network that's important for us to build around us, right? And I think it also just reminded me of the importance of surrounding yourself with people that don't always tell you what you want to hear, but they have your best interests. Like, there's no agenda from their side of things.
Right.
And they just
like they might tell you something tough, but not to hurt your feelings, to help you become a better version. Yeah.
Not to bring you down, because it's a very different views, right? I'm telling you this because I want to hurt you, and but I'm telling you this because I want to help you and I want to lift you up and help continue to build you up.
Yeah, it reminds me of that part of the book where Shonda was talking about how she had like 2 imaginary friends, not that they weren't real people, they were real people, but she had like written the version of them that she wanted to have, but in reality what everybody else saw was just this extraordinarily negative person, like a true like misery loves company person. And that when they saw, I think she said something like the happier that she got, or the more satisfied she got with life, the meaner and like angrier they were, and the more they tried to pull her back into the depths of that like negativity and depression. And I bet you everybody on this call has had some sort of friend or relationship like that at some point in your lives, where you start doing really well, or, you know, get that promotion, find a boyfriend, whatever it is. And instead of being happy for you, they're mad at you because you're doing the thing that, yeah, seeing lots of head nods. Powerful stuff. Yeah, that's a great share, Luigi. Thank you for that. Yeah. I think some of you were on for the Brene Brown one. Courtney, I know you were because you and I cried. But one of the things that was one of the things that I loved most about that book was that through Brene's research, she stopped hustling for worthiness and instead adopted the mindset that just as a human, she is inherently worthy. And that concept of like hustling for worthiness just, whew. Were you going to add something,
It's-
Randy or Courtney? Go ahead.
No, sorry.
I just saw you lean in. I was like, what is
Yes,
Randy gonna say?
it was what Lori just said, you know, show me your friends. And so I was like, yes, sorry.
Mm. Yeah, I loved it. I saw the physical lean in.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's funny because I gave not funny, but I gave my best friend that book when I went to her house a couple weeks in Atlanta. And she called me yesterday and was like, just so you know, my husband got to watch me cry as I read a book. And she was like, he just kept looking at me like, honey, are you okay? And she's like, no, I'm reading a book. It's like, what are you reading? Like, what is this?
What did Courtney give you?
What did she leave here? I was like, oops. Empathy,
gosh.
Chris. That's what I left.
Yeah, it's a good one. I've actually sent it to 2 people since then. So I love to hear other people passing it around. Okay, last exercise before we wrap today. In chapter 14, Shonda empowers us, tells us, don't apologize, don't explain, don't ever feel less than. And she reminds us that we can all have our own happy ending and it does not have to look like anybody else's. And on the very last page of the book, she declares, and Luigi, this is actually like very reminiscent of what you were sharing, that the woman I see may be new, but I know her well. I like who she is. I like who she is becoming. I love her. And I think a thread in this book club, and certainly in some of the personal conversations I've had with many of you, is that all of us are sort of committed to this idea of being on a journey to become this better or best version of ourselves. The ending, I mean, I had like tears in my eyes when I read the ending. I was like, oh dang, bye Lori, have a great night. And so I'd love to wrap today just thinking about the process of becoming. And this is another prompt from the book, is that for each month, she encourages the journaler to pick their own thing month by month that they're going to say yes to. So you might remember in the, in the book, it's like, I'm going to say yes to hard conversations. I'm going to say yes to self-care. I'm going to say yes to help when people offer it. So I'd like to just wrap today with taking a minute to write down what you're going to say yes to in August. And it's perfect, right? August 1st, beginning of a month. So let's all just take a second here and think about what would be really meaningful to say yes to and to really lean into. Ooh, yes to slowing down. That's a good one. I think a lot of you know I'm a practicing druid, and so I pull druid oracle cards, and I have a plant deck. And one of the cards that like just has kept coming up, it comes up less now, but particularly when I was like making the decision to leave corporate and start my business, was a prompt to give your body and your soul find a time to find one another again. And I was like, okay, cards, I hear you. Fine, I'm working on it. Yeah, that's powerful. That's really powerful. From Jeremy, yes to salad Saturday and Sunday instead of barbecue food. That's a tough one, Jeremy. Jeez. During August? Okay, report back next month. That's a big one. Kudos to you. Randy, saying yes to creating my business plans for the Miss Phoenix LLC I created. Get it. Snaps for Randy. Very exciting. I love that. Yes to designating time at least 5 days a week to self-learning. Powerful. That's a powerful one. Yes to self-care, getting outside Monday to Friday while working remotely to connect with friends. Oh, I love that. Like leaning into a sense of grounding and a sense of belonging. Powerful, powerful stuff. Yes to more time to do these types of sessions. Yes to doing what Leslie does and be okay with downtime and not working and just chilling. Yeah, that's been like one of the hardest things I've ever had to come to terms with, is being okay with stillness and being okay with guilt-free self-care. Yes to a beginner mindset, even though I'm fully stepping into being my own boss. That's a big one. I love that. Yeah, really good. I said saying yes to questioning my fears about the future of my business, because I know they won't be as scary once I come face to face with them. And then Shonda, do you want to pop off mute here to wrap us up and share this comment?
Sure. So, when we think about this last chapter that we're talking about, a lot of the things that really came to me was, again, the quote that I had told you before is that, the higher power did not create any of us to blend in. And so everything that you're talking about, Randy, go do that business plan, get out there and do it. Ellie, keep that mind. Just do it. And I think two things that really stand out to me is that Shonda, what I noticed throughout the book, and again, we talked about commitment. She did this for a full year. And, she focused all of her time and her attention on what she will become, not what she was at that time. And so if you focus on what you will become and you put that work and that energy in, it's gonna come out of the work. And I think that's what she saw at the end of that year, where it became really easy for her to have these public speaking engagements and feel comfortable and do all of that. The other thing was that, when she went in with the mindset, she had the desire to change, and that desire was so much greater than her excuses. And I think that's what kind of kept her going. And, I think if we can continue with that type of mindset, when we decide we have something to do and we're going to want to do it, we have to have the desire, and that desire has to continue to burn for us and be bigger than our excuses. And we will get to those particular steps or goals or whatever it is that we want to do. So I don't know, with that, like I said, I love the book. I got so many, I have pages of just comments and things I would just write down after seeing it, because I looked at myself and then I tried to figure out, how is this different than from what I'm going through? It's not. This is something I think I want to do as well. And this is a mindset that I've got to have going forward. So with that, I, again, loved being on this with you all. I hope that I can be on another one as well and hear all of your, we can share in the minds and just have some fun with it.
Thank you. That was a perfect summary. Shonda, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day and being so open in your insights and thoughts as I peppered you with questions. Thanks to all of you for being a part of Business Book Club and showing up in this space and being vulnerable. I leave these sessions like very emotionally full, and I hope that you all get that same vibe. Cannot wait for Radical Candor next month. And I just wish all of you the happy ending that you want for yourself. So get out there and commit to your thing that you're going to say yes to for August, and I'll see you again next month.
Bye.
All right, bye-bye. Have a
team.
great
Have a great
evening.
night.